Did they watch my firecracker event? Yes, I've had a few people like, whoa, you were on it. Yes, I was. I probably contained the entire energy bus of Everest right there in one fellow shot in my little video. But I was going to tell you something just really quick. And people keep asking, like, why am I doing what I do, and why are we making different changes, and just even the standpoint of people moving on in different directions from. But just a couple. Does anybody know how many employees this organization still has? There's 532 agents. There's 20. Sharon's back there counting. There's 23 employees still. Jay and I were talking about that. Were you talking about this? And so even though I know you're seeing a departure of some people, I just want you to realize there's 23 people. There's one managing broker for every 59 agents in this company. That is unheard of, even still in the industry. So I just want to point that out as we're moving through these moments. And I keep talking about that the market has not as much to do with it. We had to recraft many of the things. And you hear John joking about the fact of, hey, hope that you can kind of put up with me because he's going to be a lot more around. But everything about 3 years ago came down to these things. And I would encourage you that as you get your house in order, right, and you continue to do that, I just want to point out just a couple of things. Number one, as I took a step back and said to myself, man, I want to simplify my life. You can look at that in a lot of different ways. You can look at it, people want to simplify it with their schedule. They want to simplify it with their health. They want to simplify their relationships. I think that there's something about that, because what I realized, and this is what I came to the conclusion of, and I have to tell you, I was in the middle of a meditation, and this is what came to me, is that I was going to allow peace in my life to be more important than the pleasure in my life. You say, what do you mean by that? Well, for 13 straight years, you've seen so much growth. And I think there's something to be said. Just ask yourself, what are you chasing? What are you trying to have pleasure with? What is the next thing you think you need to buy, you need to own, you need to have? And I really came to the conclusion that this became my most important thing. And then I was there on the Inca Trail with Jason, as my wife was so concerned as to whether I'd even make it. Then I was sitting here concerned about Amy, whether she was going to make it, because she didn't do all the things that I thought she should be doing. All of a sudden, she's leading the pack all the way to the end. People are wondering where she is because she's so far ahead of everybody. And my point is that I was sitting there, and you look at the simplicity of life in Peru in many areas, and you start realizing that there's not a loss of peace. That has nothing to do with the pleasures of your life. And so really, just again, this again was a journey about 3 years ago where I made a decision. It was 3 years ago I made a decision that I wanted to see California be sold. It was 3 years ago that I knew that when leases came up and different things happened across the Wasatch Front. So some people think, oh, well, this is something you just quickly did. No, it was a decision of what I wanted to do on a personal level, and that I was sick of sitting in boardrooms, and because I wanted to harass you guys more and be with you, Aubrey, truly. And I love being with people, and I found myself just simply being an executive, and I don't want to do that. That's not where I want to spend the majority of my time. So that came to number two, which is, in order to do that, I realized I had to make sure that I deleveraged areas of my life. And so, oops. I messed that up. Joanna, I messed that up.
It's okay.
I forgot the ER in there. I do know how to spell leverage, but it is deleverage your life. All right. Deleverage it. Now, lots of things, baggage could be from friendships you shouldn't be in. Hopefully it's not your spouse or significant other that you're trying to deleverage, right? But my point is that you're trying, I just realized I want to deleverage parts of my life. And that meant that I wanted to, in simple words, I wanted to reduce my risk. Because my priority came down to, I wanted my peace. I wanted to be present in the moment. In other words, and so just that's been a lot of my charge, is reducing my risk and deleveraging areas of life. And then the third was making sure, of course, that there was a high level of profit. I wanted to make sure, of course, that my income, in so many words, didn't change. And so that became, people get, where did you read that? I didn't. I thought about it. I meditated on it. prayed about it, thought about it, meditated on it, prayed about it, pondered about it, constantly going, what do I want my life to look like? And that's really what the question, what do I want my life to look like? And that's a lot of the things, even as difficult as some of the changes have been, is that even just the challenges of, and really people who would love it to be differently. And here's a question that you have to, I believe you should be asking yourself. There's so many people that want you to live your life the way they think it should be done. Now you may not believe that people think that how I should live my life. And it came to my conclusion is this, is that what might be good for, let's just say, that individual, whoever that individual is, this individual in life, doesn't matter who the individual is, but is it better for me? And there's this balancing act between our lives where we say, hey, give everything we can to another person. But there's another part of our lives where if we don't take care of ourselves, we have, well, in fact, Jay and I were talking about this on Friday, well, then you can't even take care of yourself. So I think it's really important that you recognize that although people want you to do so many different things, don't lose yourself, don't lose your foundation, don't lose your center. And there's this great fine line between, am I selfish versus selfless? Am I taking care of myself and loving myself while I'm able to love others? Wayne Dyer has a great example where he says, if you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it? Right? Orange juice, the obvious, right? And the thing is, no matter how much pressure you put on that orange, no matter how hard life squeezes down on that orange, what comes out of it? Orange juice. And the whole point is that if you can fill your life with love and light and beauty, that even when life squeezes down on you, what should hopefully be that comes out of you? Hopefully not the bad stuff, right? That when you're squeezed, that actually a lot of light and love comes out of you. And I know we could make jokes, got this, these guys over there smiling, right? When we squeeze on ourselves, right? But the point is that it's the truth. What comes out of you when your life squeezes and pushes and drives down on you? And so much of that comes down to a decision. Okay. So this has really been my guiding principles for nearly 3 years now. And I hope that your life is very, I mean, real estate has the capacity, guys, to be so simple if you'll do the right things. You have the ability to completely deleverage economically the debts, the liabilities of your life, reducing your risk, which allow you to increase your profitability, which drives you to a higher level of peace. And here's what's funny is the more peace you have, probably even the more pleasure you'll have, the more joy you'll experience, the more happiness you'll experience. And at the end of the day, right, as long as you make a certain amount of money and you're not worried about food, shelter, clothing, transportation, and simple survival. Well, it doesn't matter whether you're making 200 grand, 500 grand, $1 million. You can have that desire, but just make sure it's not at the expense long-term of other things that are also equally as important to you, which we always talk about. What do I value versus what is it that what are my goals? And my goals and my values have to match up. In fact, it was Amy and Sherry Peck way back in the day. I say way back in the day, like 13 years ago, where I remember I sat down with them and I would talk about how much can we all do? And yet the thing is, I remember saying to Amy, just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And so as she moved through raising her family and doing certain things, there was this balancing act between what it is that you value, what are your greatest values of your life in relationship to the goals that you have in your life. And the challenge is that if you achieve all your goals, but you ruin and break away from all that you value, all of a sudden you're going to be miserable. So make sure that what you value most is in alignment with the goals that you've set, especially in this business, right? From a place of just our mindset, like I love mindset to be something what we're doing here on Monday in the very, very beginning. Make sure that you really take a step back and ask yourself, are your goals and what you value most in alignment? And I hope that they are. Now, I can see some short-term sacrifices in regards to your time and your energy on what you may value. And if you achieve these goals, they set back here to make you have a better level of connection to your greatest values. But if you live a lifetime achieving goals and you lose sight of your values, you're going to be at the top of the mountain of achievement and you're going to be completely alone, unfulfilled, unhappy. And you will look back and go, what did I do? And yet you'll have all the economic success in the world. I think in so many words, in the words of like Tony Robbins, he says, the ultimate failure is all of the achievement, but none of the fulfillment. And how do you define fulfillment? Which you guys have heard me for years define, which is your peace and your happiness. So how do you create more fulfillment to your life? If it's peace and happiness, it's about your personal growth, and it is about the way in which you contribute to another human being. Growth personally, personal growth, giving, contributing in some way or in a fashion. And if you can grow and you can contribute, I guarantee you're going to have a deep sense of fulfillment, which is that peace and that happiness, mentally and emotionally, emotion and mind. And if you can have that, again, you're going to step back and go, wow, life is pretty darn good for me. Make sense? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay. So with that being said, let's just jump. I just want to point out some of the things I'm watching. I just want to remind people that every single week you need to know where you're going. I hope that you've set some intentions. I used to do a 3x5 card for years in this arena. And I just want to point out this. I want you to just right now is how many appointments are you going to set today? I just want to go through 3 or 4 goals today and this week. So write down how many per day, right? And how many for the week. And every single Monday for weeks upon weeks upon weeks upon weeks. Now for you guys, right, if it's LOs, right, in the room, I mean, look, how many apps will you take? But get really serious about how many appointments you're going to set today and how many appointments will you set for the rest of the week. All right. Number 2, I want you to write down how many listings will you take? You may say, well, I don't know how many. I'm not sure. So is your goal 0? I just want you to just really think about it. Is your goal 0? And the answer is, of course, it's not 0. So I always used to put, by the way, whatever number I used to put up there, at least a 1 or more, because you will get exactly what you focus on. And if you don't have a focus to setting and taking listings, and then number 3, how many buyers will you put? Actually, you know what? We're gonna do it differently. How many buyer brokers will you get? Okay, how many actual contracts will you get? Oh, cool. Thank you. Very awesome.
Check
And then
in their bag. So I
You
don't
did?
think we had any supply closet. He's like, I have some right here.
Oh, awesome. Okay, how many buyers, brokers you get, and then how many deals will you put under contract? So how many buyer brokers will you get signed? How many listings will you take? And again, I just go back to, why would it not be 1+? You may say, well, wait a second. But I can just tell you that every single Monday or every single week, you remind yourself of where you're going. You have a pretty good chance of getting there. But some of us are wandering through the week, wondering what's going to happen. But if you get really clear, how many appointments will I set today? How many appointments will I set this week? How many listings will I take? You can even divide this. How many for the day? And again, how many for the week? How many buyer brokers will you get signed this week or this day? And, sure, you put it right there. Thank you. And then how many deals will you put under contract today or this week? I can't imagine a day that I go by with not knowing where I'm going. And then the last thing is, what system or tool will you put in place? So these things for me, these first 4 things are about working in the business. This last one is about working on the business. And every single week I got to be working on my business. But what I don't do is I don't work on my business during the times when I should be working in the business. Because you should be, when you want to work on your business, that's when you do it at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 4 in the morning. You say, well, gosh, you mean, yeah, because this is what should be happening during the work hours from basically 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. And then this is when you work on the business, when you put in tools and strategy initially, because right now you have got to feed the machine. And the one thing I know is that when people start working on the systems and tools, that's a lot easier than being rejected all day. That's a lot easier than knocking doors all day. That's a lot easier than just simply going and just existing in the business and just working on tools. That's a lot easier to work on systems and CRMs and websites and emails and put your postcards you're going to send. You say, well, why? It's because it's easier, because there's no rejection here. There's no disappointment here. Spend 80% of your time in these arenas right now this week, even with the holiday. It's okay. Stop. Remember, just write this down. Exchange my expectations for gratitude. Stop expecting at times so much. Set the goal, right? I want to set an appointment today. But when you're prospecting, don't get so like wired in that you're like, oh my gosh, I got to set a point. I have to. If I don't, what am I going to, all that, exchange it for gratitude. Hey, I'm grateful to prospect. I'm grateful for the appointment I'm going to set today. I'm grateful for my opportunity to converse and talk to people, help people, serve people, bless their lives because I showed up. And all of a sudden, when you have that type of energy with your prospecting, your listings, your buyer brokers, and your contracts, well, then some pretty good things happen. And I've always appreciated, I don't know, many years ago it was that Jay said this to me, but I quote him all the time, and only in the room I give him credit when he's here. Just kidding. But I always love the fact that he says the question, it's a great question you might want to write down. Today, what am I going to do to set or to create one contract a day? And I think that is such a profound little statement. It seems so simple, but what are you going to do today to write a contract? Whether it's the contract of a buyer broker, the contract of a listing, the contract of an under contract, the contract of a price reduction, any one of those things that when you write a contract, good things are happening when contracts are written. So today, what are you going to do to write a contract? Think about that, because you get what you focus on. You get where you focus your energy. And if you want appointments, if you want contracts, then start focusing on them. Not just wandering through your day, hoping that business might happen, hoping that you might set an appointment. Get really clear on where you're going. Okay? Any thoughts to that? Comments? We're out of time. What time is that? 8:14?
I have a thought, George.
8:05. Okay.
As I was taking notes and then I passed out those 3x5 cards, I found it harder to write it on the 3x5 card than in my actual journal.
Yeah.
Like it was just like I had to like force myself to write it down there because I think it's like.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Earl Nightingale, I was listening to Earl Nightingale this morning, and Earl Nightingale says, hey, take a card and let's do an experiment. How many days does he say in the Strangest Secret? Remember? 30 days, right? For 30 days, right, John? 30 days, write down this goal. And then even on the other side of it, he says, ask and ye shall what? Receive. Everyone knows it. Doesn't matter whether you don't remember, knows the answer for that, right? And then he says, if you doubt yourself, if you do things that prevent, then start the process over. Mentally, emotionally. And he starts talking about your attitude has everything to do with it. Your activity has everything to do with it. The reason why often in my journal over there is I write down some of the same goals over and over and over and over again. And what I find even more fascinating is this morning I showed up a little early and I was watching the moon over the pinkness of the mountains. It was spectacular. And I was thinking to myself, I used to look at the sun setting on this building. And I would say to myself, I will own this building, I will own this building, I will own this building. Well, right now I'm in the middle of negotiations of buying this building, which is comical to me that people go, why are you going to be in business? Meaning, what is, right? Do you guys know who the partners are in this company today? I don't think sometimes people don't know that. Do you know who owns 9.9%? Now, Jamie asked, why is it 9.9? Because there's some limitations of reliability with Century 21 that they require all sorts of signatures and crazy stuff. But the guy who built this building and every glass building around here has a net worth of over $300 million, owns 9.9% of Everest. The comicalness of asking whether this organization is going to be around. I had someone say, it reminds me of the days of RCI. Oh, gosh. You realize that Strategic Staffing Services, anyone seen that company on 7th East, the staffing companies? Does anybody know Shari Whitworth? You've seen her around?
Yeah.
Net worth of like $25 million. She owns 21%, sorry, 18, no, sorry, there was a change because when we brought Tom in, 18% of this organization is owned by her. Guys, there's never been a more fluid time to raise ourselves up. Changes that we've made in this organization have nothing to do with whether we make it or not. It's smart business. And then I go back to what I talked about earlier, what I want my life to look like. So that's not what I wanted to look like. I'm sorry. It's not your life. And when you start signing the leases for $51,000 a month in Centerville, that's great. Then you can do that with your life. I didn't want to do that anymore with my life. I just didn't. And that's a fact. I want to be right here with you guys. And I mean that. You watch. I will be here every day. And I hope that you will be too. Unless I'm, of course, playing golf and on a trip. Then other than that, I won't be here. All right? Some of you will appreciate that. See, I saw a smile from Adam. He knows what I'm talking about. All right? Okay. Any last thoughts as we do some affirmations? Oh, please, yes.
I love when you always say clarity is power. We are powerful, but we have to be clear. And then when you talk about asking, we shall receive, I have that written and it's in several places around my house. Ask, seek, knock. And I had that, and my little grandson, when he was only about 8, he could read that. And he looked at that and he read it and he read it out loud to me and he goes, is that true, Grandma? And I kind of looked at him, and for a half a minute, I had to think about it. I said, yes, it is. And it was just like an aha moment to me. Now, he was probably thinking about a game or a toy or a
Sure.
bike,
It doesn't matter.
but I explained it to him. And that is so powerful to me, because
Yeah.
you do need to ask, and you do need to seek, and you do need to ask and knock. Otherwise, there's no action.
And by the way, when you weave, what is happening, you can feel it right now, even in her voice, that when you weave anything with a deep sense of emotion, I can assure you, you will get it.
It is.
Ask, weave it with emotion, and you will receive.
Yep.
That's the beauty of it, Brenda Lee. It's awesome. Guys, any other last thoughts, comments? Oh, I think we're done. Let's roll.